September 15th meeting of the Beaufort County Airports Board.
County people don't really know what's going on.
Hey, Brian, all set? And if you all please rise, join me, pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, public notification of the meeting has been published and posted and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. You all received copies of the agenda. We have some of our board members online. Any corrections or changes to the agenda? Accept a motion to approve the agenda as published. I move. And a second? Chris? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Agenda passes. Minutes, you've all received copies of last month's minutes. Any changes, corrections, additions to last month's minutes? I have one minor correction on the Passenger Service Committee. It was noted, I think, that Ann was chairman of that committee. That changed sometime. Leslie is the chairman of that committee, so if you could correct that,
We go back and
we'd
forth.
appreciate it.
It's just the two of us.
Let me know which one.
She's vice chair.
Outside of that minor correction, any other corrections, additions, or changes to last month's minutes? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Leslie and Ann. Okay, second from Ann. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes passed. We now move into the public comment portion of our meeting. 3 minutes per session, please, and I remind the board that it is not a time for rebuttal, it's just a time for us to listen to see what the public has. Is there any public here that would like to address the board or any airport and aviation issues? Come on up and just please state your name.
My name is Doug Mullett. This is Chase Fulmer, and I'm here as an advocate for Chase, and something I wrote down here so I can keep on agenda.
You can move up a little closer to the
okay.
microphone, please.
So my wife and I, Natalie, and her 2 young adults just moved here to Hilton Head back in July. I have 2 teenagers back in Ohio. My wife works here locally and have an energy and lighting business. This is Chase, and he's my stepson. His dad died when he was young, and his dad originally got him interested in airplanes when they used to go to the Columbus airport and watch him take off and everything. So he's been an enthusiast, to say the least. He graduated from high school back in Columbus and got a certificate in aviation, and he worked at the Columbus airport as a wheelchair attendant, and he has autism, and he probably won't drive, so we've been trying to get him a job at the airport, but he had to have a license. So we're just here to introduce him, and he'd be happy to donate his time, and just want to introduce him and see how he might be able to get involved. That's all.
All right, well, very nice. Well, welcome to Hilton Head.
Thank you.
And if you'll leave, some written information with us, name, address, phone number, contact number. We're always looking for volunteers, always looking for help. We'd be happy to reach out at the appropriate time and see if you're available.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that'd be great. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the public this afternoon? All right, John? You're on.
That was quick. Well, welcome to Chase. He's contacted us before looking for something to do, so he gave me a packet of information that I think is some nice letters of recommendation from CMH. So we're gonna get our wheels turning and noodle on this, because I think we could, use somebody like him. He's got a great memory for history and things like that. So there may be a storytelling opportunity or something like that inside the terminal. So Ambassador team, look out. We may have a new joint for you. So, all right, let's see. I've got to somehow figure this out. Let me get my cursor. Oh wait, I'm right there. All right, let me share screens here, and we're going to share this guy. You can all see what I'm doing here. You can see inside my head. That's a scary thing. You don't want to be there. Trust me. Okay. Anybody know where that is? Please, somebody.
Runway.
Yeah, into the runway, yeah. Nice picture. It's kind of an interesting perspective because if you know, that's the north end there, looking south. So you're actually up on a little bit of a hill there, so the EMAS is almost hidden, but the EMAS is there. So kind of a cool perspective of that.
Yeah, you're gonna crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily he's standing. That's how somebody flying. Brian, good point, Brian, says he's coming in way too low. Yeah, exactly. You passed the test. By the way, Brian's a flight instructor, so if he hadn't picked that up, we'd have some real issues. All right. Let me see if I can advance this now. There we go. All right, a little sunrise picture. I should have quizzed you on that too to make sure you're oriented to the airport. I missed that one. Make sure you know you're looking east. Okay. First thing, Howard had brought up last month that we take a look at the operating agreement. From the time of last meeting to this meeting, I've had an opportunity to speak with county legal as well as some aviation law consultants. Just kind of run this idea past them, and they feel that it's very appropriate to develop a second agreement that's a little bit kind of shorter form and just maybe more in line with a smaller business that we see at the airport. So we're developing that, and we'll be rolling that out in the coming weeks and months. So just be on the lookout for that, but thanks for that suggestion.
Thank you for following up.
Absolutely.
Thank you for following up, John.
Sure. Next one, economic development project. I've probably spoken about this in the past, but this is what's been referred to as Project Cloud in the past. And this is a project that is coming to us by way of the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation. And we just recently, at the beginning of the summer, saw the first site plan of how this group may lay some property out there for development purposes. And the property would be located actually to the northeast corner. So actually on the slide you're looking at, it's kind of off to the left, far left, lower side. There's a lot of details still coming together on that. It'd be a new business moving onto the island. So we're trying to work out some of the details, and a lot of that is kind of between the developer and then, primarily the kind of the town and the county to just look at the economic benefits of the project and then look at the costs associated with putting in this type of business. All those need to be really borne by the developer. So we'll keep you updated on that. There was a request from that business to basically also develop the portion of land that's kind of dead center in that slide, which is right by the air traffic control tower between that and the ARF. The airport's not ready to do that at this point. So we've encouraged them to continue looking at that north end and develop that to the fullest extent that they can. But as you all well know, the only acreage that the airport's got to develop is that between the tower and the ARF. So we will not dance with the first people who come to the dance. We need to be very, very deliberate and intentional as to what we do with that, because once that piece is developed, that's all we have. So we are intentionally going to slow walk that. Any questions on the development? More details hopefully in the next few months. 3600 Road is, I was hoping I could tell you that it closed as of Tuesday, but that's still in the process of closing. It's difficult because the property owner is in a different state, so we're having to collaborate or correspond via email and phone. And if anybody's got a law background, once you get lawyers involved, they can talk about some things, they can talk about with some people, but they can't talk about everything with all the parties involved. So it's been very interesting to close this across a mile. So we're very close. So we should have that very, very soon. And then that project is one that will apply for BIL money. If you recall, there were several aspects of the BIL funding, and one of them was, I don't want to call it entitlement money, but it was money that was assigned to an airport to be used very similarly to normal FAA AIP funds. So our intention is to apply for the 90% reimbursement from the FAA using the BIL funds, because they'll be more readily accessible. So that's a good quick reimbursement of the county funds on that one. And that is the last property on Hunter Road that the airport will need to acquire during this phase. And the other aspect about that is on that property, on a portion of that property, is where Avis Budget rental cars currently services their vehicles. So they wash them, vacuum and everything, get them ready to go back into the rotation on that property. The airport and the county intend to maintain that relationship with Avis Budget until such time as we physically need to develop that property. And so that will help to generate some revenue for the airport too, which will help pay back the airport's portion of that property acquisition. Okay, next one. We, after a long time, I guess, a little bit over 2 years, we've got an ARF chief. So he's going to fly in through the clouds there, Bobby Davidson. And I've got a cheat sheet on Bobby because I wanted to give a little bit of biographical information, not invitation. I think I lost his paperwork. Did I give it to you, Rosia? Oh, great. I got to go by memory. Okay. So Bobby came to us from Burton Fire Department, and he was a training officer with Burton. And I think he's got about 30 years of experience, 35 years in the fire industry, fire business. And prior to that, he was in the Air Force, and he worked in the communications sector of the Air Force, so he's got a military background as well. When Bobby came to us back in late winter of last year, he took a real interest in really revamping our training program and really just dove into the details of the job. And then we decided it was time to advertise for a chief. Bobby asked for consideration, so when we put the advertisement out, he applied. And Mark, do you have a question? Oh, he's just waving away the flies or something.
No. I'm in a room and an individual came in. I was waving hi to him. So, all good.
Gotcha. Thank you. So Bobby applied, and he ended up being our selection as the chief, and he's really taken the bull by the horns. He had, I don't remember if we named him chief right before the FAA inspection. I think probably right before the inspection. So it really threw him into from the frying pan into the fire. He did a great job, and he's just consuming information as we feed it to him. And then he's thinking through it and working through it and coming up with new training schedules, new accountability programs, and things like that. So really excited to have Bobby in there. So if you see him around, if you buy the ARF for whatever reason, Bobby's going to be there. He's kind of normal business hours like we are, and then of course he's on call all the time. But if you do get by there, introduce yourself to Bobby, and he's going to be a great addition to the team. All right, terminal project update. You can kind of see there's a rainbow in that picture. That's not Photoshop, that was real. And the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is that terminal. So I want to tell you that last time we measured economic impact of this airport, it was $417 million a year as an annual economic impact. That was just before COVID, and we've obviously rebounded significantly after COVID, so I dare say it's higher than that now. But that truly is a pot of gold at the end of the runway, there at the end of the rainbow, that continues to pay dividends to the town and to the county in what it produces. Where we are with that project now, we have received the bids. I mentioned last month, the bids came in high. Is probably not surprising given today's environment, the atmosphere out there, and the inflationary world that we're in now. So they did come in high, and what we've decided to do as a county airport team is we're going to rebid the project. So we canceled the first round of bids, and we're going to repackage the project so that the first phase that we bid the scope of work involved in that phase will be completely financed by what we already have on hand. So any grants and funding we've already received will pay for that initial phase that we bid. There'll be some flexibility built into that scope of work in the way of some bid alternates in the event that additional funding comes in, because there'll be a months-long process to kind of repackage, rebid, evaluate the bids, and be ready to be back in a position to award a contract. In that time period, we're hoping that more funding may become available. We are still waiting on the South Carolina Aeronautics to make the determination of how much of that $50 million that's set aside for commercial airports would come our way. There's also a second round of competitive terminal grants through the BIL, and we should be getting that notice of funding opportunity any day. And then we also are still working with our state delegation in Columbia. If you remember, they were able to deliver $12 million in the kind of mid-summer of this year, and there's been some, I guess, some talks with the delegation, and they feel that their work's not done in support of this project yet. So there are other funding opportunities out there, which is why we want to add some alternates to that scope of work so that in the event that we get funding, we can expand that scope and execute a little bit more. So look for that. It's going to take a couple of months because, basically got to a point and then had to call timeout, look at the plans we've got, ask the architects to kind of take them apart and put them back together in a format that we're able to bid by phase. That's going to take, several more weeks to get that teed up. So it's probably going to be later on this calendar year that we're set up for a bid. And then we'll determine the best timing of that based on a multitude of issues, including the fact that there's something going on that first week in November, I think, that everybody's talking about, which could potentially have some bearing on prices in the inflationary environment we're in now. So that'd be the election. I hate to say you have to wait for everything until after the election, but it might make a difference. So we will wait and see, and we'll bid that out by phases. So that was a lot. Any questions on where we are with that? And I can't see our visitors now, so I can see Mark. I shouldn't say visitors, our remote attendees. Ian's on there too, so if anybody's got questions, just speak up, notify us somehow. Brian?
Given the fact that this has all gotten delayed, is there a time frame when that money sort of turns into a pumpkin at midnight, or is it an indefinite grant that you have?
Yeah, great question from Brian. What's the life cycle on those grant funds? The FAA grant funds are 4 years, so from time of award, they're good for 4 years. So we did receive a grant in, Judy, you might have to help me, was it 20 or 21? In 29, is that what we got the grant, was 19? Okay, so the first grant for the 10 million from the FAA was 2019. So by August, September of 23, we need to spend that. Now, some of that's already been spent because there were soft costs. That's been paying for the design, everything so far. But the item that you're going to vote on today, that second grant, which is 11.6, that will have we just approved that. The county administrator and attorney signed it last week and this week. So we've got until, I think, what was it, the 14th, I think, as 4 years from yesterday to execute that one. So we've got a lot of time there. BIL is the same way, so if we were to get funding through the BIL, that's got 4-year period of performance as well. We don't have any details on that state money, so I don't know yet if if that 12 million has a 1 year, timer on it. I really don't know yet, so we'll get some more information. That's the one I'm kind of most concerned about, just because we don't have any details yet.
So do you have a timeline for the rebidding process to be completed?
Yes, what we're looking at now is probably rebidding that, like I said, towards the end of this calendar year or first part of January. So ideally, and again, this is all in very, not sharpened pencil, we're looking at bids, late December, early January, and theoretically should be a little smoother, quicker bid process. We did only give 6 weeks last time, but we can, I think, narrow that to 30 days. Folks will be familiar with this. Maybe we'll get a few more bidders because the scope will be a little bit smaller, and you may have a little bit, that lowers the amount of bonding that a contractor has to do, which might bring more players in. So we'll look at 30 days and then some evaluation and award that bid. So, theoretically, we could be ready to award a bid probably in the late winter, early spring, or award a contract, late winter, early spring timeframe. So if all the stars align, that's what we're shooting for.
John, is it safe to assume that each phase of the project will be a complete phase? So if you complete phase one, if there's a reason to halt at that point for a period of time, phase one is complete. It's not a temporary building, no temporary walls. It is, each phase is complete.
Yes, another great question. So making sure that that initial phase that we construct is a usable unit of work. Yes, it is, and yes, it actually has to be to satisfy the FAA grant requirements too. So yes, the first phase will be, if you look at this picture, it's going to be down towards the left. That'll be the new boarding gates, the new security screening checkpoint. All of that will be completely constructed and usable. The one item that's hanging out there as an if would be the passenger boarding gates. Those are expensive items that can easily be taken off and added back on if they need to be. You can always ground board these aircraft if we need to because of budget constraints. So we'll wait and see on those, working several options, but the big thing is, yes, we'll have that new piece of the building fully operational. Any questions from anybody who's attending remotely? And again, I can only see Mark, so can anybody else see anybody? I don't know if Alec can see him in the back. Mark has no questions, so we're good. All right. Anything else on Hilton Head? Because we're going to slide over to ARW if we're good here.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, are you going to talk about deplanements or anything? I have a question. Looking just at the numbers, comparing them to 21 and 22, because we don't have flight ops, so I don't know the flights. Is that the number of deplanements? Is that based on more? There's not enough flights coming in, or are the flights more empty?
Good question. Numbers this year, passenger numbers are lower than last year. That is exclusively due to fewer flights.
Okay.
Because the load factors are actually up across all three airlines. So the airplanes are more full than they were last year, but there are fewer flights.
Which is as expected.
As expected. Now, I will give my shout out to American. American continually is our lead performer in adding those flights in the summertime and reaching out to those different cities. So they've done a great job to boost our numbers. All the airlines are experiencing difficulties. As you know, Delta and United are still a little bit newer in the market. So they've got a lot of, they've got to kind of feel this out and make sure everything's working for them. So, we're just kind of, we're playing it as it comes with those guys, understanding that all of the airlines and all the industry is really still reeling from the effects of the pandemic.
Now that the summer peak season is past, have you gotten any indication from the airlines what their fall and winter schedules will look like into Hilton Head?
We do. There's going to be some breaks. United and Delta are going to take a couple of months off, and we'll update that when we get their actual schedules. But it looks like but American's full all the way through. They do drop down to just Charlotte the way they do each year. I don't know specifically when each of the cities falls off because that kind of staggers usually into October. So we'll figure out what that looks like. But yes, it definitely will slow down in the wintertime, and then in March is when everybody starts coming back and those flights get added back on. Basically from March to May is when primarily American adds those additional cities. So I think right now it looks like next summer, at least the schedules that are loaded, which are about as good as what you're paying me, they're very, fragile at this point and exploratory, I guess, but they're very similar to this year's. So whether they're loaded as placeholders because they just hit copy paste, I don't know, but it looks very similar to this year. Anything else? Good questions. All right, let's go across the river to ARW. Okay, we've been working, as you know, we've got a vision statement and a mission statement for Hilton Head Island Airport, and ARW needs one as well. We need that to guide our operations over there and to assist with our decision making. And so we ran this by Chris and Trey. Who else we have? I guess Mark was in the meeting. He missed that one. He was working. And
Nick was there.
Nick was there as well. So we did kind of run this by those guys. They all thought it was okay. So want to run the vision by you and see what you think about it. But the vision at Beaufort Executive is to be the premier general aviation airport on the Atlantic coast. Okay, so that's what we're shooting for. That's the end-all, be-all, big goal that we're going to strive for. Okay, keep in mind a vision is something that is visionary and it's potentially not attainable, but it's something that we're going to aim for.
Sounds a little political.
Well, we didn't put a political spin on it, but okay.
Okay.
Well, it is general aviation. All right, and then the mission. Okay, the mission is what we do, who we do it for, and how we do it. So Beaufort Executive Airport delivers an efficient and laid-back low-country experience to our aviation community. Our superior customer service ensures the highest quality service at affordable rates. Our airport is a valued community asset that will continue to develop as we meet the needs of our region.
I might have a problem with just the words laid back, perhaps conveying the wrong, unintentionally conveying the wrong message. It is a working, functional airport that will have prompt, courteous service to all aircraft that can fit at the airport.
How
So
about relaxed? Relaxed, maybe?
I think we need to be a little bit more professional because we're not only dealing with the general aviation and piston-powered aircraft, we're dealing with a lot of turbine aircraft as well over there, and they're not necessarily looking for the laid-back.
Oh, you ought to see him on the rocking chairs, Howard. Am I right, Chris?
How about pleasant or pleasing or something like that?
Just some food for thought.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Howard on that one. I think it's too slang colloquial for a mission statement.
All right, we'll take a look at the wording on that. All right, any questions about ARW? I'm gonna leave if there's anything else, Chris, I'm gonna let you talk about it from the committee standpoint. I don't wanna steal your thunder.
John, last month you talked about the fact that due to variations in activity at the airport, that there might be closures of the FBO on certain days of the week. Is that still going into effect, and how does that conflict with the mission statement?
Thank you. Yeah, we've talked about that on the staff level, and I don't think that, right now, it looks like we're not gonna do that. I think that we may have an instance where the person who's working the desk or, our line tech might be out doing some maintenance on the airport and might need to be called, but they'd still be there to serve the aircraft. I think that's probably how we're going to handle it because we've got enough other things to do at the airport that if we have a slow period as far as fueling, they can be running the lawnmowers and maintaining the property. So that's probably where we're going with that, Brian. Thanks for the follow-up on that.
Yeah, that sounds better.
And plus, in the next week or so, secession comes back into season. And then that discussion's moot anyway because we're going to be busy. And it's amazing what a little bit of sunshine will do. And I know we've said that before. But, we kind of had the monsoon season for a little while there. And when the sun came out this week, it has been extremely busy up there. Off and on with highs and lows, but much busier than it has been for the last month and a half. And that we attribute that to just the weather. Have had great, thanks Ian for the Chamber of Commerce weather. Keep it coming. It's been good for us. So that's all I've got unless there's any other questions.
Well, if you just hang out there for a minute, John, because unfinished business, anything else? John has already touched on our unfinished business. Anybody else have any? Okay, hearing none, let's move right into new business then, please.
Okay, there's 2 action items today. The first, we'll take them separately since there's one for each airport. The first one is a work authorization for Talbot Bright and Ellington, and that's to execute the design work and the bidding work for our runway rehab project. It's on our CIP list with the FAA, and we've received a grant for that design as well. So it's just this vote would be to authorize that work authorization, and it will go from you to Public Facilities Committee probably in October because they meet next week, so it'll be October.
I think they meet Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Monday they meet,
Yeah.
so we'll be in front of them in October. So I'll entertain questions about it if you want, but it's the design of the runway rehab project.
It's only the design phase.
Design and bidding.
Design and bid, no work yet.
Correct.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the work authorization for ARW 219-2103. And Mark, why don't you make that motion? Get you a little involved. Is that okay? wave your hand if you can do that. Thank you. We'll take a second up here. Brian, a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. So I think Mark has something to say, or what was the cross signals? No, we're good. All right, hearing no objections, the motion does pass.
All right, thank you. And the next one on there is item 11, and that's a grant acceptance for the FAA grant, and this is grant 50, and this is the $11.6 million grant that's in support of the construction for the terminal. And this is that second FAA grant that we spoke about for the last couple of years.
Any questions with respect to the grant? All right, we'll accept a motion to approve the FAA AIP grant for the Hilton Head Island Airport terminal construction.
So moved.
Leslie, get the move, and second? Second. You're too late.
I beat you.
Quick, this is a quick group here.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising a hand for those online. Aye. Any opposed? None? Hearing none, motion
Thank you.
passes.
Tom, remind me to never pick you for Family Feud. Slow on the buzzer. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thank you, John.
Thanks.
Appreciate the update. Let's move into committee reports, and Leslie, passenger service, we should discuss the very successful ambassador program that you put together for Hilton Head.
Thank you. Yes, I sent everyone a final report, so hope you've had a chance to see that. And so I'll just be very brief in saying that it was very successful. I felt we did a very good job this summer of putting together 12 volunteers. We learned a lot from it. We had to, about halfway through, we realized we don't need 2 people. We were only using 1, and that helped a little bit too. But it did. It worked very, very well. In fact, the volunteers were so well accepted by everyone, all the passengers. I have a nice little gift here that was sent to the airport for one of our volunteers. We don't know what it is, but we're not opening it until. So, you know, they really did. They took it seriously, and they enjoyed doing it. I got positive feedback from them. And I want to especially thank Howard and Jim Buckley and Mark Bailey and Thomas Sheehan, because they rose to the occasion and worked as ambassadors as well. So that was really special to have them involved. So we're closing it down until next year, and we'll wait and see what John wants us to do. There may be a little different role with the terminal construction, but I do think there's probably some role that we can play. And I will be out there recruiting once again for volunteers. If you would like to be an advocate for our airport, Hilton Head Island Airport, or, and help to welcome our passengers and to guide them through the process, make it easier for them, then this is the job for you as a volunteer. So I'll be doing that and looking forward to it.
Leslie, thank you very much. Great program, great concept, your idea, and great execution. I want to thank Steve and John also for working with Leslie and making all these things happen at HXD, and we look forward to another round next year. It was a good year for Learning Curve, but very successful program. Why don't we go over to ARW? Chris, you want to deal with the ARW report, please?
Yeah, so we had a meeting last week and discussed, the county's working on doing some hangars, T hangars. That's kind of in the design phase right now. We're waiting for the design to come back to us. We also had got an update on the old mitigation that we had, which has been taken care of. And have a meeting with Asher Howe just to learn more about understanding mitigation, since none of us know that much about it, and trying to get a better handle. So we've got a meeting next Wednesday at 3 o'clock to have him give us a rundown of exactly kind of more how mitigation works, so we can understand it going forward. The terminal improvements, I think, now are 100% complete, are they not, other than a punch list, really?
We have some more outside.
Yeah, more outside, but for the inside, it's pretty much done, and that's been well received. I've heard a lot of positive feedback. on that. You're even able to grab some food there now as well as drinks. So that's all gone well, and that's all we had for our report.
Chris, we're looking at one large box hangar over there at the moment?
Well, there's a private group that has been reaching out, but they've been silent lately on the big box hangar. This would be more on the straight T hangars. You know, the final design hasn't been done, but just adding to the, now that we're on septic, we can, or not on septic, now that we're on sewer, that septic area we can use to put in hangars. So Steve and John are working on that, on the design. They're gonna bring it back to the ARW review committee when they get to that point.
Any
Review.
ballpark idea of timeline, or any goals for timeline?
No, I think I would say you're probably looking at 18 months, a year, 18 months or longer.
It's kind of up in the air. A lot of that's going to depend on follow-on funding too.
Okay. Nice going. And again, as I reminded everybody in the past, if you haven't been to ARW and you were there a few years ago, it's worth either a plane ride or a car ride out to see what went on there. Outstanding. It's a different airport, completely, and a different experience for pilots
Who's offering the plane ride?
coming and going. Well, Chris is going to come pick you up in the in the TBM, and he'll bring you right over.
All right, thank you.
Should last about 35 seconds to get you there.
You could maybe pick all the Hilton Head people and take
Yeah,
them to Beaufort
absolutely,
for
we
the monthly
could.
meeting.
Yeah.
Do that.
There is no report from the Finance Committee, Communications and Marketing. Jim is out this month, but he'll be back next month, and I'm sure he'll have something to go on there. And there is no report from the Hilton Head Island Airport Committee this month, but there will be one for next month. Anybody else that has anything to add to the committee reports?
No, it was you put out a great email though on that. I read through that for the ambassador program. So it's that's a feather. And now I look at airports when I go in and see if there's any ambassadors.
So-
I haven't seen any. You're still Hilton Head's the only place I've seen.
Well, I'll put you down for next year.
I
Never
didn't quite go that
Can't
far.
bust, right. All right, well, thank you, everybody. We once again go back to our public portion, and I remind our commenters, it's approximately 3 minutes, and for the board, not a rebuttal session, but a good listening session. So, Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glenn Stanford. Leslie, I really appreciate the service of the ambassador, but I'm interested in what are the main questions or issues that you've heard other than where's the restroom?
Where's the baggage claim?
Where's the bathroom and where's the baggage?
Right, right.
I think a lot of people have the impression that the Hilton Head Airport's risky to fly out of, because I did talk to a couple people about that.
Really?
Because it's a smaller airport, but my flight in August was canceled out of Savannah to get me to Philadelphia to get an international flight.
Right.
It wasn't Hilton Head, it was Savannah. So, you know, I use that example, but I do think there's still some concern that we're not notably there yet. And I try to work to get that out of it. But that's pretty much it. Most of the people were very appreciative. They would come, I think it's a great thing for the Leos, because now that they know we're there, we have shirts and we have a podium, they don't bother the Leos as much. And I think that's nice too, because they know we're there and they will ask us questions. Transportation has been an issue because they're used to arriving at an airport and having transport there waiting for them, be it a bus or taxi. And so we have to explain to them, we give them information of who to call, why they have to call. I still think it would be great if we could work out something with the hotels to sponsor a bus to get some of these people to the hotels, because several of those people that asked me were going to hotels.
Sure.
And unfortunately, I couldn't tell them that there was a separate hotel transport, so.
Well, that creates some interesting challenges, I think, to share information better with the public that's arriving here, enlist the airports to help in some way, or have some flyer that is available to incoming passengers so that they could understand some more of the rules that are here. But I think the idea of receiving people, answering their questions in a friendly basis is outstanding, and so thank you for your service there.
You're welcome.
So Glenn, before you go, I'd like to address the reliability issue just a bit. I think the liability issue, the reliability, not liability, reliability issue, really falls back to the older aircraft that we had, and before we had the runway extension at Hilton Head Airport.
Right.
We had no low approach at that time, we do now, and reliability has gone up dramatically for all three carriers, since we've extended the runway, and we now have low approaches to the airport. But I think that'll take a little time to wash out to the general public, both to our landowners on Hilton Head and to our visitors, who still sometimes choose Savannah, first because they don't always know they can fly direct, and two, some of them may still be worried about reliability. But
Right.
I think that issue, to a large extent, is resolved.
Yeah, it sounds like it is, and this board's doing a great job, and we appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you. David, come on, you're here. David is our liaison for Hilton Head Town Council and the Airports Board.
Interested in solving problems. If the hotels have a role to play, have they already been contacted in a way that they can say yes or no?
I don't know. Was there some sort of a transportation meeting at some point on that with the bus service to do that this
Okay.
year? No.
So then the question becomes, is Chamber a partner in solving that problem?
Not that I'm aware
And
of.
who would be contacting the Chamber? I'm just wondering whether or not this is something that can be handled by the Aviation Board, John, whether I need to get involved, but it seems to me that's something we ought to get an answer on.
I'm going to direct that at John. I think the board would be happy to become involved, but also more than happy to defer to you or Steve. And David, if you wanted to get involved, don't have to decide right now, but maybe we can get that back on the agenda and find some solution to that issue.
Yeah, I can work with John. I do think the Chamber has a significant role to helping solve that problem because their main clients basically are the resort hotels.
I would agree with about the Chamber of Commerce, only because you look at it, that's moving a passenger that's paying that hotel. I would think the hotels would want to come in, which most of them are probably a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So the Chamber of Commerce, in my opinion, would be the better factor if they may not know of the problem. So it's really just a matter of sometimes alerting them to say, hey, here's what we're seeing.
Maybe during the month, we can discuss the issue and John have it, John come up with a resolution and direction for either his staff or the board members, one way or another.
I had a personal conversation a few months ago with the GM at Omni, and I asked him the question of wouldn't he like to have that? Because he was asking me questions about Hilton Head Airport. And he said, we don't have a bus and we don't have the funds to do that, or we would do it in a minute. And so I think that's part of the problem, if you put the onus on each individual hotel to have to do that. But if you could come up with a collective effort, we don't have that many hotels here, a collective
Yep.
effort that would cover all of them.
Well, I don't know if it's a financial problem, a coordination problem, or a desire. And I'm just trying to ferret out a solution. If I can be helpful, just let me know.
Thank you, David.
I have a question going back since we've been talking about the ambassador program. I remember when we first started with the jet service coming in, and when I first came on board, a lot of questions about people getting confused about Savannah, Hilton Head, and Hilton Head. Are you guys still seeing the same number of people that go to the wrong airport, or has it still the same number?
There are still people that wind up at the wrong airport. I don't know how we can compare numbers, but the
Yeah.
general feeling is that there is still confusion in the marketplace between us and Savannah.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm not sure how we deal with it. They own the name Savannah Hilton Head Airport. We own the name Hilton Head Island Airport. And perhaps it's an education issue, and as our traffic increases here, more and more people become aware, hopefully that issue will be minimized. Anybody else? Any other comments? Hearing none. We will move on to the most important part of the meeting, and that is the adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Tom, this is your opportunity. Tom, and in a second.
There you go, Brian.
All right, Ann, got a second? All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much for coming, and please remember, Thursday, October 20th, in Beaufort is our next meeting. Please make every attempt to attend in person.